Kia ora, welcome back to the Stag Roar podcast. This is episode 323. This episode I'm joined by Kate Ivey, the name behind Kate Ivey Fitness. Kate Ivey Fitness is the home of DediKate online workouts for women, a balanced and holistic approach to health and fitness, everyday life, family and fun. It allows you to get fit, feel great, and build a long-term and sustainable lifestyle with their online workouts, fitness programs, and supportive community of women. So any woman in your life, share this around and share with them Kate Ivey Fitness. You can follow them at Kate Ivey Fitness on Instagram and Facebook, or check out kateivyfitness.com and see what it's all about. Kate tells some good yarns in this podcast. It's awesome to speak with somebody balancing family life, business life, and farm life for anybody out there that doesn't know Kate. Anyway, without further ado, let's check out this episode 323 with Kate Ivey. Awesome. Kate Ivey, welcome to the Stag Roar.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think I started. When did you start Kate Ivey Fitness? Was it around the dirty C word? Was it around that time?
Well, it was actually quite a bit before, which was great because it meant that when it did hit, we were already an established community. So it was in 2016. I've got 3 kids. My youngest was, how old was she? She was just over 1.
Yeah.
And how it all started, I really wanted my own business, and basically I wanted something that was mine, and I didn't want to be working on a farm. That was really the truth. And so I was brainstorming all sorts of different ideas, like making t-shirts, anything. I was trying to think of something. And I'd worked in the health and fitness industry, and I'd set up my own little health and fitness sort of not community, but little boot camps on the lawn with neighbours. We were living near Mount Cook at the time, so people would come from Mount Cook Village, which is really small, and come and do these boot camps. And so I was doing that sort of thing, but I was still thinking, what else could I have? My husband suggested an ice cream truck on the edge of the lake, which I think would be super profitable. But when he said that, I realized that I needed to do something that I was really passionate about. And
so that wasn't a fuck yeah, that was kind of like, oh, it could work.
Yeah, it was both. It was both. So my drive at the start was half to show him that I could do more than have an ice cream truck, and then also that it was clear that I needed to do something that I was passionate about. So that's how it all started.
And so how many kids were there?
3.
3, yeah.
Yeah. And throughout my life, I, like many people, like many women, struggled to be consistent with exercise, especially through changes in life. So starting uni, I don't really know many people who had a good time at uni and still managed to keep their health and fitness intact. No regrets.
I've got this photo. I got this photo of the end of my second year in Dunedin, so my 3rd year of uni, and I'd worked at the Cook that year.
Yeah.
But I was in the pre-academy for rugby, so I was training in the mornings, and then, so there was a lot of like no sleep, and then finishing security at the Cook and drinking a jug and having a fry up. And I am so inflamed at the end of that 3 years. I'm just like, oh, that is hideous.
It was hard work, eh?
Yeah.
I remember with netball, I'd start the season off really well, and I'd come back super fit from the holidays, and the coaches would be like, oh yes, Kate's fit, this was great. And then by midway through the season, it was just gone downhill.
Who'd you play for there?
PE and Southern Institute.
Yeah.
When were you in Dunedin?
What was that? 8 and 9. Yeah. So, yeah.
What's that?
2008 and 2009.
Yeah.
I
was there 3 to 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so it was one of those things where you're like, oh, have we met before?
Yeah. I was like, security cook. Oh no.
No, I was the demise of the cook. We had the last cookathon, I think, which was
Oh
a
my
great day.
gosh, I love
But,
cookathon. It was so fun.
yeah. So Carrie, like you said, changes
Okay.
in life, they keep happening.
Yeah.
The only thing that's
Changes in
constant.
life. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so I really struggled to maintain my health and fitness. And it was after my third child that it all sort of clicked. I realized that I'd been focusing on exercise for weight and nutrition for weight. What I'd been doing was really unrealistic. I was jumping on the scales sometimes multiple times a day. So I had it all wrong. So I found myself with 3 young kids, and I realized that I needed to change that attitude. I needed to start actually exercising to feel good, and I needed to start eating to fuel. And I needed to start looking after myself. I had a big job on my hands. My eldest also has a disability. So things were quite chaotic. So I used exercise to get myself back feeling great. It was also a really strong sense of self. Having played a lot of sport growing up and then not being fit, I really sort of lost who I was, and also having kids as well. And a lot of women say that too. When they have children, they lose their self-identity or sense of self, or it changes and they need to find it again or find a different version of it. So anyway, I got myself back feeling really good, and I ditched this 100% all in or all out attitude that had actually got me quite a wee way in life. But when you are juggling so much, if you want to be 100% into your exercise, it just falls over. So I realized I needed to ditch that and just start trying to be a bit consistent, short, effective workouts once I can fit in around the kids, even when they're in bed or when they're awake. And yeah, it went really well. I was feeling amazing. And I realized there must be other women like me on farms or anywhere. Women are isolated when they're in the cities as well, if they're stuck at home with children, or anyone who has a really busy job or kids and they struggle to get to the gym. So yeah, I thought there must be other women going through the same things as me, and I had the tools, both through my qualifications, that I did get a university degree, guys. I wasn't at the cook that much, through my experience, through my education, and especially through my own journey, that I could share that with others and help others to get fit and feel good about themselves through short and effective workouts.
Nice. So what did the professional part of your life look like before you ended up on the farm and being a mother? The biggest profession of all.
Yeah, exactly. So 4 years in Dunedin, I did a Bachelor of Physical Education majoring in exercise prescription, and also did a Bachelor of Science in psychology. And then I worked as a mobile personal trainer. So I went around to people's homes with a Swiss ball and a couple of dumbbells. I worked for a company that was based in Auckland, but I did it in Christchurch, helping people to get fit. And there was a psychology component to that as well. And fun little fact, I would take a Swiss ball and 2 sets of dumbbells, and I have a workout on DediKate now that uses that. But I just felt like it wasn't enough for me. So I looked for something else, and I ended up working for the Heart Foundation in schools and early childhood centres, implementing exercise and nutrition programs. That was really awesome. And then my now husband, my boyfriend at the time, he was heading off overseas. He's 3 years older than me, and I wasn't quite ready, but he was, so I decided to go as well. And we went to Canada skiing, and I was a waitress. Not a very good waitress, but I always turned up to work, which in a ski bum town is quite a gift.
Oh, I listened to you talk. I think it was either some of the crew from DediKate or your sisters about how going there skiing, part of the reason why you were so effective in a ski bum town was because you weren't that good at skiing. Was that right?
Oh yeah. No, I learned to ski because I went there.
Was that just daunting or what?
What's that? Oh no, I ended up doing like 68 days that season or something. So I was still skiing a bit, but my husband did like 90 something. But I would turn up to work, and there's a lot of people who didn't even have the skills to be reliable, So I'd always turn up. I might spill a few drinks on a few patrons, but I'm exaggerating. But I was always there, and then I was really determined to do something in my profession. After that, we moved to London, and I worked for the NHS as a stop smoking facilitator. So it took a few months to get the job. I did some temping, but I was like, right, I really have to do something in my field, because the writing was on the wall that I was probably going to be moving back to the farm after that. And I didn't know what that future for my career would look like. So I didn't just want to get any old London job. And so half of the job was marketing and promoting the service, which gave me a lot of skills for what I do now. And then the other half was actually working with people one-to-one, helping them to quit. So it was working through the behavioural and psychology components, and then also looking at what would be best for them, whether they would use medication, whether they would have a patch, whether they would use, I can't remember what they were called, but like you suck on it, it's like a cigarette, but it's got nicotine. I don't know. I can't really remember. It's a few years ago now. But that taught me a lot about engaging with quite a wide variety of people. My area, my borough that I was in, an area was called Southall. Did you live in London at all?
No, I didn't. 93 grand worth of student loan. I was like, I better start working this thing.
So Southall, and it's basically Little India, mostly men, mostly Muslim men. So that was quite an experience, quite a unique cultural experience for me, coming from a small country town in New Zealand. But everything we do in life gives us the skills to do what we do next. Yeah. So I'm really grateful for that experience. And then we did van tour around Europe, and then came back to the farm.
Nice. What were some of the tools you were using for marketing then?
We did like billboards, and we did like flags down the main street of this place called Southall. Building relationships with doctors and nurses and people in that front line who were seeing people that needed to quit. What else did we do? Like calling, working out, when should we ring people, all this stuff. And I got really frustrated because we know the Brits don't quite have the work ethic that we do. And we'd set up these systems, and so there were some ladies in the office, and their job was to ring them. And so, right, Monday, okay, so I've got a clinic Tuesday afternoon and clinic Thursday afternoon, say, so can you please ring them 12 o'clock, each one. If I forgot to check in with them, like the calls are never made, and they'll be like, I didn't realise we're doing it this week.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, we're doing it every week. It's not just a random one-off thing. So that was quite interesting.
What was the motivation levels like? That's one of the interesting things with optometry. You're trying to, in the middle of trying to build a rapport with somebody, and then you can sort of pick the smokers, and then you kind of querying where to throw it in. I'd sort of term it in the case of that it's 4 times risk factor for macular degeneration. That helps us to try to talk about it. Like, if someone's being referred by a district nurse or a GP, are they motivated, or are they ticking a box?
Often they're ticking a box, and what was quite hard about it was for the NHS, and they just want figures and numbers. They just want it to look like their system is working. So like, you would check in with someone, I can't remember how many weeks, either 4 or 6 weeks after you first saw them, and if they had stopped smoking, then they would go down as that they'd quit smoking.
Wow.
So if you then saw them a week later, and they hadn't, they'd still want us to keep it on the system that they quit, and then you put them in as a new person.
And a new success.
What's that?
And a new success story.
Yeah, potentially. But I always knew if someone wasn't going to be successful if they said, have you been a smoker yourself? And I completely understand that question. It's I did a tiny bit of social smoking while I was in that role, mainly just to make my friends laugh when we were living in London because of my job. So I didn't really understand what it was like to quit. So I get that having someone that had been through it, and I think that's why like my business is successful, because now with exercise, because I'm on the journey too, and I'm sharing that and I understand. So that's something I definitely didn't have then. So it's cool to reflect back on that. But when people did say, have you been a smoker? I knew that they weren't going to be successful, because they were just looking for a reason to take the ownership off themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if they could say, oh, she doesn't understand, then there was an out for them.
Nice. And so conversely, now with fitness and nutrition, are you essentially disarming that question?
Yeah, I don't need to, because I share my story, and yeah, I guess that's exactly what it does. It breaks down those barriers, and people see that, I think so often people think, or used to think, that exercise was something that's just for fit people, kind of, or just for people that were into it, but realizing that even those that are really into it struggle as well, and that it is such a powerful tool for our mental health, for our physical health. And I guess there are no real excuses. There are reasons that make it harder, and I share those a lot. Like, there's a lot of barriers, and there are days when I think I don't want to exercise, or weeks. You could easily go months without exercising, don't you think? If you don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, even I found myself school holidays got crook, and then trying to get back into it has been an absolute battle. Not helped by losing my car. My car blew its transmission, so I've been down to one car, and then you're like, shit, there's another 2 weeks gone. You're like, oh man,
it just flies, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's been a month since I've worked out properly. I've done little bits, but I'm like, I'm in the like, I'm not happy with that. That's really average.
Yeah, and you think, oh, just another day.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter, and then before you know it, they've compounded.
Yes. Yeah. How did you think about sport going from high school to uni? Like, what kept you playing netball and basketball and stuff like that? Were you striving for something there? Like you said, you were a bit boom and bust about fitness and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it was a way of life. One, I didn't know anything different. I wouldn't even consider not playing. And two, it actually brings me so much joy. I love it so much. And that's why I still play now. I'm not playing this season because I am recovering from a game of basketball. But yeah, it just, I'm coaching though. I'm coaching year 7 and 8 netball team. And even that I just love, like I'm fizzing. Yeah.
Do you have a competitive streak, or you just there to enjoy it? Very much so. How do you control that? Because I'm asking for potentially my future.
Asking for a friend, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think like if you asked anyone, they would say that would probably be the first thing they would say about me, is that I'm highly competitive. But I think the key is to like not do it in an ugly way, like not break the rules, not be a poor sport. And I think that's the great thing about combining something that you love doing with being competitive, because you enjoy the ride, you enjoy the losses as much as you hate them. You appreciate just being out there and doing it, and you're striving to win, and you're trying to pull everyone else up around you to strive to win. And that's enjoyable in itself. So I don't think you need to cancel it out.
Nice. I just finished listening to James Marshall talk to Dom Harvey, and he was sort of getting at him about the difference between when he was a player and how he is now as assistant coach of the Crusaders.
Yeah.
And I guess it's sort of like you're trying to model to someone now your ideal thing. So you don't, like you say, you don't do those dirty things. You don't do those poor habits. You're modeling and setting the example all of a sudden. And
yeah, totally.
It was quite interesting.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to listen to that one. Something I do find interesting as well, though, is around as an adult, I've had to learn how to be happy without external reinforcement that I used to get through sports and certificates, and I guess through my business a bit as well, and realizing that, and sort of seeing that in our society we grow up being rewarded for things that we achieve, and sort of learning how important it is just to value yourself just for being you and not by your achievements.
Yeah. While we're on that, and the topic of coaching, you've been doing a little bit of personal mental coaching at the moment.
Yes.
How did that all come about, or what drove that?
Yeah, well, I've been thinking about it for a while. I have had challenges with coming to terms with having a child with a disability, and I guess also the juggle of life. And when it does get a bit chaotic, you sort of get into these negative thought patterns, or what I'm learning at the moment now is like my central nervous system being trapped in like a fight-flight state. And yeah, for ages I was thinking about it, and it was actually because of my podcast that I ended up doing it, because so many people that I spoke to had therapy. And every time they said to me that they'd had therapy, I'd say, oh, I really need to do that. And then you go, oh, I'm all right. I'm busy. I've got stuff to do. And then Sarah Dickey approached me about working together. So I started having some sessions with her, as well as someone else in Christchurch, and they've made such a difference. And it's an ongoing journey. I don't think I'll ever stop doing the mindset work. And that's what I really encourage people to do, is realize that it's not necessarily something you just do if you're in crisis mode. That we've all got these bad habits, these negative thought patterns that have become normal, that we can fix. It doesn't have to be like that. The biggest thing I've learnt over the last week, my big take home from last week's session was around what others think of you. And I thought I was someone that didn't care what other people thought.
Yeah.
You know, and you say, it doesn't matter what other people think. And I genuinely thought that, you know, I knew I cared a bit, but I thought that overall I was pretty onto it and pretty confident. And then I've since learnt that there are so many thought patterns and so many behaviours that are actually based around trying to please others, and like panicking about doing certain things because of what others might think. And Sarah said to me, let people be wrong about you. And that's just, she said it a few times in a few different sessions, but it just dropped. The penny really dropped last week, and I've been saying it multiple times a day, and it's amazing how many times I go to get panicked about something, and it's only because I'm worried about what someone else might think if I haven't replied to their email right then, and like really high expectations that I've got, like it can wait till tomorrow, or it can wait an hour, or it doesn't need, you know, nothing needs to be addressed. So yeah, that's been amazing.
And so how do you deal with the forward facing of the business, you know, via Instagram and you know, video and all that sort of stuff? And you're filming you guys are filming from your homes, is that right?
Yeah, we are. Yeah. And it's so much fun filming the workouts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always get a bit nervous, and the really high intensity ones, you think, oh, how am I possibly going to do this? And then you get started, and I can actually feel the energy of the people there, even though they're not there. Like we're filming a week ahead of time. It's so motivating, and I absolutely love it. The social media side is a different story. I do enjoy it, but there are definite highs and lows. And the big journey for that has been detaching what I post. So realizing that people are liking or not engaging. They're either engaging or not engaging with my content, not me. And that's been a massive journey as well. And it's the same as what I was saying before, where you think you're sweet and then you realize that actually you're not, that your social media page, even though it's your business page, is basically an extension of you. And what's really hard is people really resonate with the authentic stuff and the personal stuff. So when you are sharing that stuff, to then also find a way to feel connected to it, but disconnected at the same time, so that your highs and lows aren't alongside whether you're
the response.
Yeah.
When you're in Canada and the UK, were you using Facebook to sort of communicate with people and share what you were doing, or didn't really engage then?
Just personally, like not professionally, just personally. So if you want to look up 2009 or
but the reason for my question with that is because that was sort of around that time. That was where Facebook developed. Like I saw somebody the other day talking about how nervous they were when you'd add someone as a friend, because all your other friends would pile in and be like, "Oh, is that the person you saw out on Saturday night?" Type stuff. And like, you know, as you said, you're on a van tour, you're taking a photo of all the places you said, and everyone in New Zealand and who you met in Canada can see what you're up to.
Yeah.
And then Instagram was sort of an extension of that with more photos. And then it's now become this business thing. So again, talking to that sharing of yourself and how originally it was designed for, and now it's to do with the business in the front of the business. And
I know what you mean.
Sort of
like it wasn't kind of a stop mark. It was just kind of a flow on. So of course I would have felt like it was me. Yeah. And it is me. Like, it's photos of me. It's like I'm sharing my personal life. Like, it is me.
Yeah.
But it's trying to detach from it. And it's the same with what really clicked for me is when I was getting down about, and this is sort of looking back a few years, I've done a lot of work since then, getting down about maybe not having sign-ups or not getting engagement, to get that, like, of course you can have highs and lows, that's fine, but I was having like really high and really low, and it was dependent on content success and whether I was getting sign-ups or whether we were doing something new and exciting. And realizing that to stop the lows or to minimize going really low, the first thing I actually had to work on was not going too high. That was breakthrough. So gosh, you just learn so much along the way, don't you? Just in life in general.
Absolutely. What's been the crossover between coaching and the recovering from the hair trauma? Have they got anything to do with one another, or
they do actually?
Yeah.
So I was playing basketball and I got hit in the face, 6 stitches, and I've never felt anything like it. It felt like someone had so it was with their head hit my face. It felt like someone had got a bat and just like whacked me. It was a big knock. I was like, whoa, this is not good. And then I got vertigo afterwards. And what I've learned is, and it does depend on what you believe in too. Like, some people might think this is crap, but it's not. Maybe me 5 years ago may not have believed it, but it was what I've learned. It was the final straw for my central nervous system, and that I've been living in this fright flight permanently, and it had served me well. I'd got lots of work done, and I didn't really know any other way of living. So I'm learning now and I'm not very calm right now, but to breathe, basically, to breathe properly. Open the rib cage, connect with the pelvic floor, and when I do that, my vertigo goes. And when I get stressed and get into fright flight and start getting a bit too excited about something, then the symptoms come back.
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm working on that through breath work, and the therapy helps as well, because if I've got triggers that send me into that fright flight, then it's going to make those symptoms come on. And I've had vertigo on and off throughout my life. It's my central nervous system's way of saying it's not coping. But this time, and I've been able to sort that before, like with one session, but this time it's been 3 months so far. But I'm making huge progress, especially as I really understand more about the central nervous system, and noticing patterns in myself. Like even then I was like, well, I'd started coming like right forward Yeah, you just need to breathe, relax. Yeah.
Powerful, yeah. It's with optometry. I sort of seen you who might be your views in near Christchurch or I think I figured out where somebody else is in the South Island. It's Invercargill now.
Yeah.
Invercargill and Christchurch, which is a big gap. But if you're really needing help, there's two people that can help with eyes. But
Awesome. Thank you.
It's all to when it comes to the eye section of post-traumatic brain injury. It's how the nervous system is being affected, and that's affecting the function of the eyes. So our eyes have four cranial nerves innervating them, which are the autonomic nervous system nerves. And so if you're being disrupted in your nervous system, then it's taking, you're getting dysfunction in your vision, a bit like you're saying, you're getting dysfunction in your vestibular system.
Yeah.
And so we're always looking at the pupils and, also watch people's breath and see what they're doing. And we see the same things in young boys that are struggling with reading. And then today I had a run of teenage girls with the same symptoms as someone would have after a concussion. And it's again just that hyper anxiety, hyper stress, just takes phones takes over takes over their system.
So I think it's going to become more and more, isn't it? Because there's this world we live in. It's just like everyone is just go, 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 go. And phones, I think, really make you tense. And I find like that my phone is almost an extension of me. Like I need to put it down and like go for a walk without it. That's the other thing, like you're saying before about social media and stuff. Like it's like with me all the time, snapping random things. So learning to put that down is a big thing.
Across the team, how do you guys ever compare algorithms on your phones, your Discover pages?
No, but I've had one of my trainers has done a takeover, and she was like, "What the hell?" Because at the time I was playing golf, so there was just all this golf.
Oh, here's a question for you. Now you've joined up with the Girls Get Off girls. Has that affected you? Has that affected your algorithm? Someone that'll be good for DediKate.
Oh, classic.
Yeah, for
DediKate,
no, it hasn't would be Morgan Penn to come and talk to your DediKate podcast.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, it's quite fun. If that's the right word, I think it is. Definitely. Exploring different ways of supporting women through health. But luckily it hasn't done too much to my algorithm.
well, I think having listened to the Girls Get Off girls, it's part of their challenge as marketers is to be able to sell their products on like Instagram and Facebook without being banned.
Yeah, it's quite a challenge for them, I think, and they can't do your traditional, like they can't boost posts that have their product showing and stuff like that. So they have to get quite unique. What was quite cool, I was speaking at an event in New South Wales in March, and Viv, one of the founders, was also speaking, and she had a room of 600 women just pumped on it, women of all ages, and that's what gave me the confidence to align with them. I have had a couple of people say that it might be they felt it's off-brand.
Yeah.
And for me, it was just reminding myself that not everyone has had the same experiences as me. So I was at the huddle and I saw and I was empowered. I follow them. If you weren't following them and you just all of a sudden saw me with these sex toys, it was shocking.
Yeah.
For people that don't have that, haven't been through what I've experienced. So like we've got a deal at the moment with our 1-year membership, and you get a free vibrator with one, or bands, which are resistance bands, just to cater for those that it might not be their thing.
Yeah. One of the best things I heard Viv do was talk to Mark Boris. So I think he must be in his 70s. He's one of the owners of the Roosters and famous for like being a mortgage advisor in Australia. He hosts a podcast, and it was such a great conversation. The 7-year-old, Greek man, Australian man, talking with Viv about, he's like, what does this do?
Yeah. Well, it's great that so many of women's health things are being spoken about, and so many things that were taboo even 5-10 years ago to talk about aren't now, and that's men's health as well.
Yeah,
especially men's mental health. Yeah,
we just had Glenn from Wanaka from Turn the Corner on in the last episode, and again, just like a simple grassroots thing to just get people to move that needle another step further is fantastic.
It's all powerful, and it all combines the work that everybody does.
Yeah,
doesn't it, to move society in the right direction?
Absolutely. What are these huddles like? Yeah, I've seen some of your footage of them. They're just insane. Do we have anything like that in New Zealand?
Not that I've seen.
The only thing that comes to mind is when Ben Warren was touring, and then when Dr. Libby would come over. They were some pretty big events, but that's not. That's not.
There are some events.
Days.
There are some events for women. Like I'm speaking at one in North Canterbury in a couple of weeks called Fill Your Cup, and there's going to be 200 women there. So they are definitely around. This one in Aussie is phenomenal. Like 600 women over a whole weekend. Everyone's wearing bright colours. Everyone's businesswomen. I guess there's just so many more people over there. That is something I'm really enjoying, that there are so many events. But I think we're starting to see it more here, especially more for women. So excited about that.
And so how does that sort of tax on you as a family unit and you in the business? Like obviously you've got a team now, which is handy. But like, is that a pretty big commitment? Like how do you feel after that?
After being away?
Yeah.
Both my cup filled to have a week off. My parents come and look after the kids so that my husband can keep farming. And then it's full on. It's a really busy week when I go, because I'm trying to get as much content as I can and really make the most of it. I think probably I'll start taking the pressure off myself a little bit now that the business is working in Australia, and we've got lots of content, whereas the first few times there's that pressure again to it was all very early days. I didn't know if it was going to work, and the amount of money I was spending to be there was high compared to what I was getting through Australia. So there was a lot of pressure. But I absolutely love it. So I go 3 times a year. The only problem is I'm sort of using my childcare up for those trips, so it doesn't leave that much time for like girls' weekends away and stuff like that. But I always try and have some nice dinners out and some cocktails and stuff while away.
What were some of the differences and challenges you found moving into Australia?
Me being a bit naive was probably the biggest challenge at the start. I spent a whole lot of money on the wrong type of influencers, like a lot of money. It almost makes me want to vomit thinking about it.
Had you contacted them, or what? How did you connect with them?
Yes, and I was like, this is what I need, and I sort of did the math, and I was like, well, if they bring in this many members, then it'll pay for itself. But they didn't bring in that many members, so it didn't pay for itself. But it's all learning, and it's cliche, but the best. I'm not okay. Get the words right. The challenges in life are how we grow, and they're the most important thing we go through. And so I learned so much from that, and it made me realize that I needed to define my target market more. So I was really rural to start with. Most of my contacts are rural. So a lot of my program was being sold to friends of friends, and the social network went out. And then with COVID, we were already established, and we more than doubled through COVID, and we had a lot of people in the cities join, and we still have quite a few women in the cities now, but they've got that rural values. They're down to earth. They like our vibe. So that made me think we can be for anyone. Also, there was so much more competition. And our sort of point of difference when I first started was around healthy lifestyles, because the world hadn't moved quite onto that yet. So that was my point of difference. And then by the time we got to 2020, 2021, even weight loss pills we're disguising it as healthy lifestyles, so our healthy lifestyle approach was no longer unique. So I'd launched into Australia, we'd come out of COVID, and I thought we were going to sort of keep growing exponentially after that. But actually I found that we were going through a bit of a challenging patch, and I didn't really know what we stood for and who we were for and what we were about. And so then I realized, after spending all this money in Australia, that needed to redefine that target market. So that's when we went back to focusing on our rural and regional women. Like I said, we do have people in the cities, and it's so much fun getting footage with the red dirt in the background.
Yeah.
I think it just looks so cool, the red dirt. I just go on about red dirt. Everyone gives me shit about loving red dirt, but if you've got red dirt, you know it's Aussie. And so I can use that to market to Aussies, and they go, oh, cool, it's an Aussie rural platform. Awesome. And it's the same with Mount Cook and, those real typical Kiwi backdrops. There's no doubt where you are. And that's really fun. And I love coming up with new ways of showing that. But yeah, especially the red dirt. Yeah,
that's really cool. When you talk about the competition in Australia, like immediately, is it Katie? It comes to mind.
Yep, Kayla. Yeah,
Kayla. It signs. Yeah, and like
she's actually massive in America. Like that's where, like obviously they've got a lot in Australia, but it's America where they make all their money.
Wow. Yeah. So then, thinking of that, this is me thinking. How do you then avoid comparison, and that being the thief of your joy and your success and your success metrics moving into Australia?
A learning process. So you do compare, and I spent a lot of time comparing at the start of my business journey to others in New Zealand as well. And then when you when you're really sure about who you're for and what you're about, then it sort of just takes care of itself. And so when we did pivot back to rural and regional, I sort of stopped comparing, because I felt like, yes, we found our spot, and this is our niche, and this is our spot. And things, the sign-ups started coming from there, and the connections as well. And so I got asked to speak a lot more at things for rural women, because that was what I was portraying. But when I was sort of in no man's land, it was a lot harder.
Yeah, that's fascinating. How do you get the feedback back and sense of community and stuff like
that? We've got a Facebook support group. Is that what you mean? Like, how do we?
Yeah.
We've got a Facebook support group where our members interact with each other. You can comment underneath all our workouts on DediKate. So not everyone comments, but we can see what people think. We try and be really open and make ourselves approachable. I get a lot of people messaging and saying, I'm so sorry, Kate, I know you're busy. So I say in the workouts, guys, don't worry, it's not just me, get in touch. We love hearing from you, and it's super important for us to hear from people, because we could, if we didn't, we would get disconnected and not know what everybody wants. When people do send in some critical, what's the right word, feedback that's helpful but it's negative, that's the best thing, because then we can see how we can actually improve. I get a lot of messages saying how much DediKate has changed people's lives through Instagram, and it is so special, and it keeps me going for sure. But when we get some negative feedback, like someone recently sent in and said our sign-up process was a bit clunky, and I went and had another look, and I was like, oh my goodness, it is. So we need to get that fixed as soon as possible. So yeah, those are gems.
Nice. How did you know how to build an app? Was that another journey?
Yeah, you just meet people and learn along the way. The guy that actually I'm still working with, my friend, she's really chatty, and she met him in a physio waiting room back in 2016. And he said that he was starting up a web business. And so he built my website for $200 or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's just carried on from there.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking back, how did you end up in PE? Like, I think I was lucky because I figured out what I wanted to do when I was 12. So I went through high school knowing what I was going to do.
Yeah.
But that, because I was into sports, that idea of going to Dunedin and doing PE, which is kind of like the other thing to do,
Yeah.
was that similar? Like it's sort of paved your life now, but like,
Yeah.
how did you end up there?
Yeah, I guess it felt like the only option, really. There was
Yeah.
nothing else that was really standing out. I think I probably wouldn't have backed myself enough for physio at the time, which is another obvious one for someone that's into sports. I didn't do very well in like chemistry and biology and stuff.
At
I just
school,
thought
or did you
at
do
school,
that?
at
Yeah.
school. So then
Right.
of course, that put me off doing anything like that. I was good at maths and accounting, so I did do that at uni and tutored it and stuff. So yeah, it was just, I guess, seemed like the right option, and then there wasn't really any other ideas. And I did sports. I did psychology because I was quite keen on doing sports psychology.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it was nice to have, with the Bachelor of Science, to have something with the PE, you know. So there was something, even though there was some hard papers in PE, but having something else that I thought it just made it sound a bit better.
And did you have any interesting labs in the PE school? My younger brother went to China with the Ryan crew and had thermometers stuck up his bum. Did you do that to anybody?
No, no, but we did do the work with the bodies, you know, like they've given their bodies to the
cadaver, yeah.
Yeah, like in that smelly room with the
anatomy, yeah.
Yeah, and and giggling with this poor guy that'd been deceased for 100 years. Penis was out on show, and but it was fun. No, not that part, but and then there were some random things we did in PE, like dance, and that made everyone take the piss out of us because we had these dance classes. And so they thought that PE was just bums, really. You know, if you didn't do PE, because we were dancing and doing gymnastics, but it's all learning the foundations of movement.
Yeah.
They don't actually have the PE degree anymore. They've got a science 3-year degree or something.
Oh dear. Yeah. Did with that dancing, did you end up in the capping show?
In the what?
In the capping show.
What was the capping show again?
It was just kind of like a satirical piss take of common things that was going on. Like the year I was there, they built this thing called Wall Street in Dunedin, and the majority of the theme was just taking the piss out of this new, shopping centre for Dunedin.
Called Wall Street. Yeah, we had to do a dance in front of like a big stadium of people. Well, not stadium, but big hall of people. That video is somewhere I'd love to see it, actually.
The guys used to dance at Carisbrook, like dressed up as fairies or something like that, I think.
Oh my gosh, did they? I definitely did not.
Yeah, they'd have their undies up their bum and stuff, and I'm sure they would have liked to be nude, but they couldn't quite do that. Yeah. No, it's a different time. I was watching the Highlanders Crusaders on Saturday night, and seeing the zoo. It was good to see that there's still
good.
A little bit of
still going strong.
Yes, a little bit of scuffiness still in there.
Yeah, good. Yeah, what was quite cool going down there. Like, I'm a Crusaders supporter. But we would still put Otago rugby jerseys on and go and support Otago.
Yeah. Did you ever envisage being on a farm? You grew up in North Canterbury, right?
Yeah, I grew up on a farm.
Yeah.
But was never really that into it. My parents didn't think I was going to marry a farmer, and they used to laugh about that.
Your mum gave you the tip, though, right?
Yes, she did. Yeah, you had listened well. She found my husband for me. She told me that she had seen this nice boy down at cricket, and that he'd be quite nice for me. And sure enough.
She knew you well. Was your psychology where you're like that's a bit Freudian? Mum chose my husband.
Yeah. But at the time, I hadn't really met anyone half decent down in Dunedin that I liked. So I I was more than happy to meet him.
Yeah, but back to the like letting people judge you thing, like, or think what they want. How do you sort of balance the whole idea of the household? Like you said, you got to the point where you're like, oh, I need to do something else rather than be on the farm, and run this household. Like when it comes to the end of the day, everyone comes in from doing their thing, and you got dishes and you've got food and you've got bedtime and all that sort of thing. How do you sort of balance and find the teamwork for that? Like,
oh, it's hard.
Yeah.
I think we've come a long way as a team. Yeah, like I was up at 4:45 this morning. What are we now? I haven't really stopped 8:15. But that's not right now, is not the balance that I want. Like I haven't got any balance at the moment. But that's just work is extra hectic at the moment because we're changing over quite a few systems, and my daughter started homeschooling.
Yeah.
So things are a bit hectic. My husband's been really good for a man. He does a bit of cooking, which takes some pressure off. Does the dishes sometimes. Yeah, I know I'm talking to a lot of men here, but it's still a man's world, and I'm not going to shy away from that. So the majority of the household tasks are on me, but at the same time, the outside's his. So the wood, him and my son do the lawns and the garden and stuff. So, and Mark keeps the garage clean. So we've kind of just gradually through time got this like understanding that outside is yours and inside's mine. But I mean, we have every now and then there's some stern discussions. We had one recently, and I was super proud of us because we ended up hugging and coming up with a solution, whereas in the past we would have just yelled at each other. And that comes from us both being overworked and feeling unappreciated, and someone feeling like they're doing lots around the house and the other person not feeling appreciated, in both ways. Yeah, so I don't know what the answer is, but you need to keep communicating and doing it together. Yeah, does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah. Do you know the concept of love languages?
Yes, and we did that. We did that quiz, and that's another thing that my husband's really growing, and it might be an age thing. But when I asked him to do that love language quiz, I wasn't sure if he was going to do it, and he was happy to do it. Whereas I reckon if I'd asked him 5 to 10 years earlier, he would have been like, "What's that shit? I'm not doing that." Bullshit, you know.
I recently heard a interesting concept on the opposite of them, and it's a toxic trait.
And
yes. The reason why we express.
Is there a quiz?
No, it's just basically, if you think about the reason why you're expressing this toxic trait, is because you want an over and abundance of your love language. So,
so your toxic trait normally forces that to happen.
Yeah.
Or you're not getting it. So,
yeah. So, like for the example of acts of service, if you go about doing everything, well, then the hope is that then they'll interrupt you and say, "Go sit down. I'm going to do all this."
Yeah. So you do more, and you're like really loud, and you're
or like withdrawal.
The opposite effect.
Yeah, you withdraw, so then they come and smother you. Hugs and kisses and all that sort of stuff. But we're like, go quiet. So then they really, really talk and provide words of affirmation. So I was like, oh, that's an interesting concept.
It's really interesting.
Relational dynamics. I was like, that's good.
Yeah. And I reckon through time you really start to understand the other person, don't you? Like tonight, we probably cook 50-50, really. It just depends who's got what on. And I had one of my breathwork sessions at 6 and then the podcast. So I said to my husband that I wasn't going to be really available for dinner and stuff. And I knew he had a busy day. So I made a potato bake that was ready when
Wow.
he came in. Even though we had some potatoes in the fridge that he could have put on, it was just like, it was a way of saying, hey, like, I'm aware that it's hectic for both of us at the moment. And I know him, and I know that he just likes that that I've thought of something, that I've showed, that yeah.
Yeah, that quite reminds me. We were cooking tonight, and Nicole needed some corn flour and water, and the little dish I got, it was like the small things are the big things, and I was like, oh, there you go, right there. The small
That's
things are the
exactly
big
it. Yeah.
things.
So how do you guys balance it?
Oh, like we're in Tokoroa, which is in 50 minutes to an hour from Taupo, where we work, and Nicole's our daughter goes to school, and so I take her daughter to school. Nicole starts early, and then she picks her up, and then they come home. So Nicole ends up cooking most nights, and then when it comes to weekends, she works Sunday, so I'm sort of cooking then. And well,
it's funny that
how
we're
far do you
talking
have to
about cooking,
drive?
but that's not even like a point fraction of the housework that needs to be done, is it?
Yeah.
Always comes back to the cooking. My grandmother always says, who does the cooking? But you're from Southland, right? You sound like you're from Southland.
Yeah, Invercargill. Yeah.
You did say that. So what made you go up north?
Oh, I was saying that to somebody the other day. It was a previous relationship, really.
Yeah. Oh, random. Yeah. And then you've stayed up there. Does it feel like home?
I don't know. It's where we're sort of at the moment. I'm doing a leadership program with Specsavers at the moment, and that sort of, I guess, will mean if I take the next step, I need to go somewhere. So we're in that real in between precipice of, so where are we going to go? And her family's Hawke's Bay. I love Hawke's Bay. Your sister's up there, eh? And like I'd be keen on that. My family have moved to Christchurch, so Canterbury area would be great too. So it's just sort of waiting to on the induction. They sort of said you need to get halfway through before you start looking at places, and that's not too far away. I think I'm about a quarter of the way through the program. So by September it'll be over or finished, all going to plan, and then they're happy for you to start looking at businesses around the country and make an offer.
So will that mean that you'll take over a Specsavers? And
potentially that's what the whole point is. That's right. Like I've been trying to purchase a practice for a long time, and so that's the idea. A lot of the time it comes down to capital, like most things. And off that student loan I mentioned. How far do you guys have to drive and stuff for resources and
so Twizel, which has a school and a couple of supermarkets, a couple of Four Squares, that's only 10 minutes. We used to be half an hour out, but we're only 10 minutes out now. And then Timaru's like 2 hours. So it depends what you need. And Christchurch is 3.5.
And those two are more beneficial than going to like Wanaka or Queenstown, eh?
We also go to Wanaka. So Wanaka's like an hour 45. Just depends, what it is that you need it. So the thing about Twizel is we're far away from everywhere. Like there's nothing really close, but we're close to everywhere because we're in the middle. So
my
we
dad
can access the north and the south.
Dad was there on the weekend cleaning up the Ruatanawha, but
was he fishing?
No, they were cleaning up their own course, and
cool.
Freezing their hands off.
We haven't had fog yet. We've only had 1 day of fog.
Nice.
So I'm pretty happy about that.
Who are you doing the breathwork with, and what are you focusing on there?
So it's through Sonia at the Vitality Lab. And that's another random meet. I was up in Auckland a few years ago, and I happened to have vertigo at the time. And she was in a cafe, and she knew I was staying with a family friend, and they just started talking to each other at this cafe that was near her work and near where he lived. And I just randomly met her, and I said I had this vertigo, and she was like, I can help you with that. And I was like, what? Because no one had ever said that they could help me. And then 5 years later I had to send her an SOS. And so I do an online with her sometimes every week, sometimes every 2 weeks for the last 3 months to
Calm down. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see Nigel Beach is coming to like Tikabo soon. What's that going to be?
Yeah, that's I am attending that and like taking workout at that as well, and Nadia Lim and a few others.
Yes, that's it.
It's a wellness retreat. So I hope they've had lots of interest. I need to check in again and find out. Because I mean there's not much of that stuff around.
Yeah.
So really cool to see how it goes.
Yeah, I know this weekend, which will be last weekend by the time this comes out, the Sauna Fest is on at Blue Lake in Rotorua. So, there's lots of little pockets of things, like we said, with the retreats and stuff. There's lots of little pockets of things coming out. Yeah.
Yeah, and Tikapura at this time of year will be beautiful.
Yeah, especially for Wim Hofing and the like.
Yeah. I'm meant to be jumping in Lake Pukaki tomorrow to get some content, and I'm a bit nervous.
Have you done that much before, or is this?
I've got in the lake once in winter. It was -2 outside, foggy, and I can't remember what the lake was. It was like 7 or 8 degrees, and I love cold showers.
Good, yeah.
I'm a wee bit wussy at this time of year.
Yeah.
Do you do them?
Yeah, I try to. Cold shower at least.
Yeah. Oh, God, it's invigorating, isn't it?
Absolutely, and yeah, today wasn't too bad, but yeah, the last few days when we had those 4-degree frosts, though, it was quite like, oh yes,
-4, you mean?
Yeah. Like here we go. Yeah, you should just drive a little bit further and go to Lake Tasman and swim amongst the icebergs, right? That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Nice. So when do people get a hold of you, Kate? You got your podcast, DediKate?
Yep. So DediKate is an online platform. They can listen to our podcast, the DediKate podcast, and they can also sign up for a 7-day free trial at kateivyfitness.com to access our workouts and our support and nutrition and mindset stuff. Sarah Dickey does some mindset stuff on there as well, and we have some other specialists like pelvic floor and Claire Turnbull does some nutrition as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's all online, anytime, anywhere.
That's brilliant. So my final question, Kate, is based around what keeps you in flow. So it could be like a mantra or a quote or a way you live your life, and it shows up when things are going well, or if things aren't going well, you can call on it to get you back on track. Do you have something like that?
Well, it's very timely because that's what I'm trying to do now with this breath work, is to get in flow. I'm sure I've got lots of stuff that I say. Yes, I know. Often I write down on a bit of paper if I'm struggling mentally, like if I'm having some self-doubt. I just write, "You can do this," on a bit of paper, and I stick it on the wall. And both writing it and looking at it, really helps. Now with this breathwork stuff, breathing from pelvic floor and spreading toes apart, stretching out, try and break those negative nervous system cycles. But yeah, positive affirmation, and I do that when I'm running as well.
Yeah.
You can do this. You can do this. I don't run with music. You can do this. You can do this. And I'm trying to run a fast pace.
Nice.
So it's all effective.
That's like Dory from Finding Nemo, isn't it?
That's probably where I got it. Unknowingly got it from there.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, I'm gonna hit the stop button.
All right.
Thank you so much for coming aboard, Kate.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.
Awesome. Cheers. Hold on.